Basics of storytelling. Hey, this is Harry and welcome to this episode of The Harry Show. Today we're going to talk about storytelling. Now, I've got a lot of training in storytelling, and storytelling is something I could teach on for days. But for this video, we're going to just stick to the basics of storytelling and we'll go deeper into one of our subsequent videos. Now, stories are how humans like to communicate. Stories are what are sticky. Stories are what are memorable. Some of my most highly watched videos are based on stories. So people like to listen to stories. But for us to be able to tell a story in a way that it's gripping, that it's visual for people, that it's sticky, we need to follow some basic guidelines. And that is what I'm going to get into in this video with the 5 W's of storytelling. So the 5 W's of storytelling are what we'll cover as something that every story needs to have. But before we go into the 5 W's, we need to start every story with a hook or an intrigue. And the easiest way of doing this is to ask a question. So starting a story with a question, and this is my favorite way to start a story, with a question. Ask your audience or the person that you're speaking with, it could be in a one-on-one setting, a simple question. Hey, have you been in a place or in a situation where you saw something that you could never forget? That's a good enough entry. They say, yeah. And then you get into the story. Have you ever been to Toronto? That's a good enough question. Some people would say yes, some people would say no, but they get intrigued. And now they want to listen more, as opposed to getting right into the story. And what's the problem with that? People are distracted and they're thinking about other things, and you start getting into the story and you're halfway through it and they've lost track. And now they can't catch up. But when you ask an initial question, that brings them into the room and they start listening to you. So what are the 5 W's of storytelling? The first is who. Who was involved? Who are the people? And you want to paint pictures. You want to describe those people. How old were they? Who are they? Who are you with? What did they look like? All these things. Because that makes a story real for people who are listening to that story. The second is when. When did that happen? And finally, you guessed it, where. So once you've done these 3 things, who, when, and where, then the stage is set for a good story. You told them when it was, what year was it, what date was it, what day of the week was it, if it's applicable. Obviously, you don't want to give them too much information that distracts them from the real story, but if it's relevant, you want to provide them with the right information because that's what they are looking for, right? And where did it happen? What was the weather like? What country was it? What city was it? If it was a specific restaurant, then you want to talk about that restaurant so that it sets the scene. This part can take anywhere from 30 seconds to 2 minutes, depending on what type of story it is and how important are these details. But at a bare minimum, you want to provide a little detail on each of these elements. And that brings you into the what. What happened? What was the conversation? What was the experience? What was it that actually happened, which is the story. And this is where you spend the most time, typically, on the what. And once you've done that, that leads you to the why, which means why did you tell that story? Now, some elements of the why could also be presented here in the beginning with the hook, with the intrigue as to setting up the scene. For example, the message that I'm going to share with you today is going to transform your business operations forever. That is the why, right? And here, once you've done the entire storytelling sequence, then you can go deeper into that why, which leads you to the takeaway message. Every story should have a takeaway message, and that is the primary reason we tell stories, so that we can deliver this message more eloquently, more memorably, in a more gripping way than we otherwise will. So the 5 W's of storytelling: who, when, where, what, and why. Starting with a hook or an intrigue, which is typically done by a good question, because that brings people back in the room if they're distracted, and wrapping it up with a takeaway message that's applicable to the audience, to the person that you're speaking with. This is Harry, Basics of Storytelling. I hope it was helpful. I'll see you in the next video. What did you learn from this video? Comment below and let me know. I read every single comment on my videos. And if you haven't subscribed already, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you don't miss any of our future videos. We already have a lot of videos on our channel. Check the playlist on marketing, sales, communication, leadership, influence, persuasion, all of these skills that'll help you transform the game and raise your career to the next level.